And joining me live in the studio is Trudy McIntosh and Chris Ullman, our colleague. Great to see you both here. Let's start with what is a very clear, audition for higher honours there. He didn't rule out running for the leadership, definitely talking up his economic credentials.
Well, that answer that you just heard there, speaking about we learnt the lessons, well, I learnt the lessons in his word from the defeat and being able to rebuild in a time frame that everyone said would be impossible. I think that's his pitch if he's going to actually pull the trigger on this when he gets to Parliament to take over. That if you can do this, the only person so far to have flipped a Teal seat back, will be his message internally, that he alone, having not been here for the last 3 years, is not tainted by some of the big issues we're seeing as the fight plays out between Susan Lee and Angus Taylor.
Flipped a Teal seat gives them someone in an urban seat that's 1-1 back for the Liberal Party against the flow of votes, and the talk about aspiration and his economic credentials. As I say, that sounded a lot like a pitch for higher honours.
And he's capable of articulating a message, right? And look at what's happening on the other side at the moment. If you take the other side of the other sides, Susan Lee and Angus Taylor are at the moment showing why they should not lead the Liberal Party. Whoever leads the Liberal Party from now on does not have a 1-term or a 2-term job. It could be a 3-term job. This is a structural change in the way that the Australian electorate has moved. This is not a cyclical thing. If the Liberal Party does not now go back to the basics and find out a pathway forward, which means working out what you are in the 21st century and trying to heal the divisions within a party, try to fix the machinery of a party, which is also broken. If you think that two people who are fighting in public now over the spoils of defeat are capable of doing that, then you're not paying attention. So whoever it is, it shouldn't be one or other of those two. You know, the task is hard, the road is long for the Liberal Party, and people who are in the process of publicly bickering within days of defeat don't deserve that job. That doesn't mean they won't get it.
Yeah.
That's certainly right. And with Tim Wilson saying the argument and that message about aspiration, about the future, that the better days are ahead, that sounded like a potent, campaign message. Unfortunately, that wasn't the message of the Liberal Party, largely at the last election. That was overwhelmed by so many other matters.
Yeah, in a cost of living election with an incumbent facing all sorts of, legitimate arguments about power prices went up when you said they wouldn't, and yet Peter Dutton went backwards. He got thumped. He should not have, and it was to do with a whole series of things that we're seeing Liberals willing to talk about. The polling was terribly wrong, that the policies were not articulated ahead of time. There was nothing for them to go out on the doors and talk about. The big thing, work from home. As a conviction politician, Peter Dutton stands there in a second week and says, I got it wrong, I'm sorry. It didn't jibe with who he's been for his entire political career, a man who never took a backward step, forced to take a backward step because of the state of the polling internally.
Indeed. So we watched this with interest, Chris, but we sat here listening to that news conference. You can understand why he's jubilant today to win back that seat within 3 years, to defy expectations, I think, as well, given so many people thought the Teals would hold on, and given the rest of the swing was away from the Liberal Party and the Dutton-led opposition.
And this is one green shoot amidst the rubble, which the Liberal Party needs to cling to. But do not forget, over the course of the last 2 elections, it's not one. Over the last 2 elections, they've lost, 26 seats. They've been driven out of urban Australia, essentially, around the country. They cannot win an election if that continues to be the case. They have to find a way back. And Tim Wilson shows you that there's a model there. The model is to find someone who's deeply ingrained in the community and build from that base, but also to build on a base of conviction. And unfortunately, at the moment, the Liberal Party does not know what it is. Now, there will be a fight for its soul, and unfortunately for it, that fight will mostly take place within the rump of a Liberal Party, which may well push it in the wrong direction. So, as I say, the road back from here is incredibly long. The party's functionally broken in Western Australia, in South Australia, and Victoria, New South Wales is under administration. Even if Peter Dutton had got in, he was standing on a footing of sand. The party needed this moment. Now, it might not ever recover from here. But I think that what we're seeing at the moment in the public bickering between the two potential leaders shows that they've already started on the wrong foot.
The green shoot, I like how you put that, because that is this one sort of green shoot amid the destruction. Maybe there's one in Kooyong. It's probably a bit too far away. But
Bradfield as well.
But maybe they use that as the they focus on him and that message. Who knows, as opposed to the other candidates. But I want to talk to you from the spoils of defeat to the victory, and how the Prime Minister navigates the expanded caucus, but particularly the demands upon the front bench, because with an expanded caucus comes other demands as to who should have what representation in terms of the states and the factions.
Yeah, it's not just about finding literally more seats for this Labor caucus meeting, which is going to be held here in Parliament on Friday. But as you say, the shift in where MPs and senators are elected, what faction they've come from, that shifts the balance of who is determined to have been given spots in cabinet in particular. I wanted to show you this looming fighter. It's happening right now between the Victorian right and the New South Wales right. Have a look at the 5 cabinet ministers from New South Wales, all from the right faction: Jason Clare, Tony Burke, Chris Bowen, Michelle Rowland and Ed Husic. Now, in the past, Ed Husic's had to take a step back when Christina Keneally was elevated into Parliament. He didn't like that at the time. There is a chance that he's going to have to fall on his sword for a second time here. We were talking this morning, Kieran, about Chris Bowen, and does there need to be a shift from that position with energy? It doesn't seem like he wants to leave that position. One thing being floated, it's been reported in the Financial Review and the last 48 hours, is that Chris Bowen could be given an extra position, which would be the president of COP, so the UN climate chief, ahead of Australia hosting in 2026 in Adelaide the crucial climate talks. This always goes to often a very high-profile politician. Their job in the lead-up to the climate talks is to hold these crucial diplomatic negotiations. So there's a world in which Chris Bowen is given one of these sort of extra roles on top of what he already has. And Kieran, you and I have been discussing as well the potential that Anthony Albanese expands the cabinet. There is restrictions on expansions in terms of overall numbers, but there is potentially room to move in terms of the number of positions to keep everyone happy, if you can put it that way.
Yes,
there'll always
indeed
be some people unhappy, but as many as possible.
Yeah, under the legislation, the upper limit is 30 but that includes the outer ministry. Then you've got the parliamentary secretaries on top of that. That's another 12, but 30 is the top. I wouldn't expect him to go that far, but there is room to move. He could nudge it up 1 or 2 to help.
And the argument's there, they've got a lot more MPs. There's a lot more states and territories you've got to factor into the consideration. There's a lot of talk about Beck White in Tasmania from the left being elevated into cabinet. Anthony Albanese himself had mentioned her as a future cabinet minister in the campaign. So a lot to watch in this space. Yeah,
he won the election, but now the tricky bits of keeping everyone happy along the way, because, as we said, success does breed expectation as well.
Yeah, and there'll be a whole lot of people in the Labor Party now who think you have a once-in-a-generation opportunity to really stamp a Labor government on this country the way that it did in the 1980s. But this is a very different kind of Labor government now. It does tend to the left, and I see already some of the problems of the future being expressed in the desires of the present, particularly by the Labor for the Environment people. If they want a target of 70% by 2035, go for it. That's on the climate, the emissions, because the rest of the world's moving away from that. I hope that Chris Bowen does stay in energy. He's been disastrous. I think that he should be there to reap what he has sown in that portfolio, and that is one area where if the coalition gets its act together, it will be able to make great gains, because the price of energy will continue to rise. It is locked in by the model that this government has locked in. The more they double down on it, the higher the price will rise, and the more variable energy they put on the grid, the shakier that grid will become. So go for it. Put the pedal to the metal. This is where they really now need to start thinking about the system that they're building and buttressing it with gas, because if they do not, it will fall over.
They've got, certainly, as you alluded to earlier, you would imagine 2 terms, possibly 3 off the back of that. Definitely 2 looks very, very hard to defy, given that margin, the size of it. Chris, Trudy, thank you both. Appreciate it.